Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, our media friends. Well, yeah, we do hope that you all had a nice lunch here, all right? And then, of course, welcome back here again. We are here, as you know, to mark the launch of Laguna Lakeland, which promises to be a truly pioneering new residential development. I would say the most significant and largest scale single residential development Phuket has ever seen, and which really speaks to the fact that Phuket has truly come of age as an international destination and, of course, a desirable place to live. So here at the press conference, joining me on the stage, please welcome Mr. KP Ho, founder and executive chairman of the Banyan Group on the stage. And also, Mr. Stuart Redding, Managing Director, Group Property Development of Banyan Group. Please welcome. So first of all, Mr. KP, would you please say a few words before we kick off the Q&A session, please?
Thank you. Like most of you, I've learned that there's no such thing like a free lunch. I thought I was going to get a free lunch and just sort of chatter with you all. My boss here, Stuart, says I'm supposed to say a few words. So you have to live with a few words. And I was asked to basically give a broader overview as to why I personally think there's a qualitative change in Phuket, and for which we're having this media group. Not only, as I mentioned earlier at lunch, because of our 30th anniversary, but really, truly, the words to describe what's happening today is Phuket has come of age. And as anybody who's got kids, coming of age has got lovely things with it. Coming of age also has coming of age problems. So we're not here to talk about coming of age of Phuket as if it's all everything fine and good. There's negative things. There's traffic jam issues and so on and so forth. But the whole point is, I think it's largely around the last 2-3 years since COVID. And of course, for us, we're having this event because it's our 30th anniversary. But in the last few years, the transformation that Phuket has undergone has been truly nothing short of transformational. There are, in my view, 5 major reasons why I think Phuket has transformed itself in the last few years and will continue to transform itself. The first one is something that I didn't really realize in all the 30 years I've been in this business, because I've always thought a beach resort is a beach resort. But as I've traveled and invested in Hainan Island, in Korea, in Japan, in Vietnam with many properties, and even in Bali where we have properties and so on, and I've really seen probably more beach resorts than many, many people. Only now I've suddenly come to realize that climate is probably the most important differentiating factor between Phuket and everything else. And that's really quite simple when you really study the geography of it. Phuket is the only resort area which is on the Andaman coast of Southeast Asia. Everything else facing the South China Sea is susceptible to rain and cold weather in the wintertime. We've got a beautiful beach resort in Lang Co in Vietnam, and we looked at the temperature charts and all that when we built. We didn't realize that in winter, it gets down to 15, 16 degrees and it's raining every day. In Bali, it's raining every day. In Singapore, it's raining every day because it faces both the Andaman Sea and the South China Sea. But if you really look at it, in all the projects we've looked at, and if you look at global tourism and global residential investment, it's all from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere. Whether it's from Americas or Europe or Russia or China, Japan, Korea, it's all from the northern hemisphere to the warmer climates. And these people really want warm, dry weather during the winter. And that's something that I didn't see the importance of it until it really struck me that every of our other resorts in Southeast Asia during the winter season is actually wet. So that's a challenge. And only the Andaman coast has this potential. So that to me is a major factor. The other reason, of course, is access. When I first came here, Phuket Airport had only like 1 or 2 planes would land, and it's really like a miserable little airport in provincial Thailand. Today, there are 70 cities with direct flights, and I think Stuart has mentioned that. That's even more than Bali, which started tourism about 20 years earlier than Phuket. And Bali has 10 times the population of Phuket, 10 times the size of Phuket. They've got 50 cities they fly to directly. And even Phuket, tiny little place, has about 50% of the total number of cities that Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok has. So you can see access is increasing by the day. Of course, that's also got problems. It's a massive traffic jam at the airport itself when you try to leave or you come. But that access is very important, and my colleagues and I who now are based out of here, we can actually go to anywhere in the world, 70 places in the world we can go to directly, or we can go to Bangkok, or we go to Singapore, which is just 1.5 hours away. So access and location, I think, is another factor that's making Phuket really different from other places. Of course, yet another factor that underpins Phuket as a destination to invest in and to live in is the fact that tourism is so big here. The 10 million people visiting Phuket, there are fewer people visiting all of Bali. And the famous Spanish resorts that we all know of, Mallorca and the Costa Sol, they have actually less visitors than Phuket. So out of the blue in the last 20, 30 years, and Phuket is even a younger destination than the south of Spain or Bali, it has really come out to be a tourist destination. I think the fourth point, I think, again, I'm just reinforcing or giving a different slant on what Stuart has spoken about earlier. The fourth point is that Phuket is probably, Phuket and Thailand overall, is one of the most foreigner-friendly destinations you can imagine. Land ownership, we can go into details, you can easily own 49% of a whole condo. Development can be for foreigners. A leasehold is very easy. Long stay visas are very easy to get, and so on and so forth. So Thailand as a whole has been very, very pro-foreigners, very tolerant of people of different geopolitical views, different sexual orientations, different lifestyles. Thailand has always been like that, but the regulations have come in to reinforce that, compared to, example, like again, Bali is not at all foreigner-friendly. I think that's going to be accelerated. And the final point, I think, that distinguishes Phuket is that while it's an island, it's also not really an island. So if you were doing Bali or Krabi or Samui or anywhere else, we are doing a true island, there are limitations to the growth of that island. Phuket is great in the sense that, in one sense, it's an island, but greater Phuket, just across the causeway, you've got Krabi, you've got Phang Nga. 3 airports are going to be, a third airport is going to be built besides Phuket Airport, which is going to be expanded. And then you've got Krabi Airport already existing. There's going to be a Phang Nga Airport being built across the causeway from Phuket. So I think we will see a phenomenon of greater Phuket. It's similar to those of you who have looked at the whole history of Hawaii's development. In the first many years of Hawaii's development, it was all on the island of Oahu and the city of Honolulu. Then tourism moved on to the islands of Maui, Kauai, Lanai, and so on. So there is in Hawaii itself a greater Hawaii. And I think you will see that in Phuket itself. People are moving and developing in Krabi, in Phang Nga, and so on. So for these 5 reasons, I do believe they're qualitatively quite different. The final point I actually touched on earlier at lunch, and I just repeat it very quickly for you. For us, we're beginning to realize that after 30 years, we have really truly become a community here. You can go to the airport and ask people, I want to take a taxi to Laguna. They don't even talk about Chengtele or Talang, they say Laguna. Laguna is a destination place name. And we didn't realize until we just did a bit of calculations that we have a community of 15,000 people who are with us here. If you look at the people who live in our our properties, the people who work there, and the people who visit as tourists, with easily 15,000 people every day. If you add on to that the other larger community, it's about 20,000 people. The size of Laguna Phuket is about 4.5 square kilometers. That includes 1 square kilometer for lakelands. So that's the size of a town. So with these facts, and also as I mentioned earlier, we've got the total projects that we have already invested in about $2 billion US, of which about three quarters are in fact property related and only 1/4 is hotel related. We realize that the building of a community, a permanent community, is what we are now doing, as opposed to the building of a tourist destination. And when we started doing Lakelands, which is in many ways, as you say, the largest project, the largest residential project in all of Thailand, we realized that just being the largest residential project, you can make a lot of money and so on. But we wanted to do something different in Phuket. We are the biggest developer here. We're the biggest investor and the earliest investor in Phuket. There is a responsibility that we have that when we develop Lakelands, it's not just going to be another gated community, another super expensive muban, as it were. And there are many examples of very expensive mubans in all of Thailand and around the world. So what we are doing here is, in a way, a sociological experiment. We are trying to build a community which has a residential component, and we will have services such as the parks that we have, the 13 kilometers of trails along the lagoons. We will have a forest reserve, which will be open to the public. We will have a botanic garden that is actually interspersed within the residences, but all that will also be open to the public. And we feel that we have a responsibility to Phuket, because Phuket has developed so quickly. It's unlike Bangkok has got Lumpini Park. New York has got Central Park. London has got Hyde Park, blah, blah, blah. Phuket has no community park for people to go to. And it's developed so fast. So while we cannot do anything about the traffic, we can create a greater sense of community. And we can go into that later on. But that, to me, is one of the most interesting and exciting things about Lakelands. It's not just how many condos we will have, what's the gross development value, how many billions of dollars. It's the fact that if this works, it could truly be a model for responsible, sustainable development around the world, that maybe even other places, other destinations from Mallorca to Bali, to Ibiza, to the Caribbean, they can look at how to do something where foreigners are invited to stay, but the foreigners do not just live in an enclave, but actually have opportunities to interact with locals, and locals actually see that these residential developments are positive to their community also. So that's the sort of few remarks I just wanted to make.
Thank you very much. I would say that, that was probably what makes Phuket really, truly unique and dynamic as well. So now I'm going to ask KP and Stuart for a few questions, and then I will take questions from all of you. All right, so now I'm going to start by asking KP that, yes, you've touched on this point about how Phuket is so unique, and yes, you've made Banyan Tree one of the most, I would say, talked about, purpose-driven resort brands in Asia. But perhaps would you please elaborate more on why is Banyan Group moving from creating the most iconic resort destination in Asia to developing probably the most iconic, ambitious international community here? Yeah, what's behind the shift in focus?
Behind the shift in focus from doing hotels and focusing on transient tourism to residential development.
Yes.
I think there's two reasons. One is a global phenomenon, and the other one is a specific Phuket phenomenon. We were told by, I think, one of the global companies, like I think Horwath or Jones Lang LaSalle, one of the consultancy companies, that we are already the 5th largest branded residences developer in the world. And that even includes companies like Marriott, Hyatt, IHG, the real, truly global branded hotel operators. So to be number 5 in that kind of universe is actually something we're quite proud of. And that's probably because early on, most hotel developers and management companies said they were not interested in residences. Many of them would not even manage branded residences. We recognized early on that if people like to stay in a place for a short time, there are many people who actually want to own something and let it be managed by the hotel when they're not staying there. So we were pretty much pioneers in branded residences, and that's why we're number 5 compared to even all the Marriotts of the world with their 55,000 hotels and so on. And our time has come. Post-COVID, there has been an explosion of holiday homes development around the world, not just with us. And that's because a lot of people have realized if they own something like an apartment in a crowded city, and if there's ever a lockdown again, before the lockdown happens, they want to be able to get out. That's on the side of wanting to be able to get out. Should there be a lockdown for political reasons, health reasons, they would rather spend time in a nicer, idyllic place like a beach resort than be locked down in a big city like Shanghai. The other point, of course, is working from home because of technology that started with COVID. And I work from home. I don't keep an office because I do so much Zoom. I can do many things. Many of you may be the same. The phenomenon of being able to work from home has enabled people to say, I'll be a digital nomad. I will actually invest in here and there and so on, and I might as well have a second home. So that has led to an explosion of branded residential development around the world. Phuket, of course, is special. Because of reasons I've given before, Thailand as a whole is so foreigner-friendly. People of different nationalities, people of different lifestyle inclinations, all along have found that Thailand is an easy place to be accepted, and even more so now legally with long-stay visas and so on. So Russians, Chinese, Indians, Singaporeans, everybody has suddenly developed this idea that Phuket has come of age. And with that, of course, the property development has just exploded.
Yeah, so
sorry for the long answer.
No, actually, it's very informative and insightful indeed. And yeah, we can see clearly it's, I would say, no longer Phuket to visit, but Phuket to live. And yeah, all the reasons behind it. Thank you very much, Mr. Ho. Well, now, Stuart, from your perspective, what makes the development unique for Phuket? And I mean, what are the key highlights? Yeah.
I think as we spoke about this morning, but I think probably the most unique aspect is what KP just highlighted, the sustainability aspect of this development. And as I spoke about before, part of our culture and ethos is wherever we go, we want to give back to the community. And I think like KP explained, the fact that this won't just be a gated residential development, but the fact that it'll have amenities which are available to the public, so it's engaging with the broader community. I think this is probably the #1 unique aspect of the project. Now, the other aspects which we highlighted earlier as well, the fact that it'll be self-contained. So, you know, you'll have a town centre, you'll have, you know, the country club, you'll have the all those amenities. So you don't need to go far. And that's one of the great advantages. I was speaking to some people earlier about even living in Laguna Phuket. Everything is on your doorstep. You don't have to venture far to find anything that you really want. Another aspect on the sustainability is preserving the already existing forested areas and the existing lagoons. So I mentioned earlier that that was about 30% or 300,000 square metres of space. But even beyond that, where we have the residential zones and the botanical gardens and so forth, in addition to that 30%, there's all of those other areas, open spaces, communal areas which can be enjoyed for passive or active recreation, which also links into the fact that throughout the whole project, it's linked by 15 kilometres of a network of trails throughout the whole project. So if you just want to go for a quick walk and sit and contemplate life and sit around the lagoon, you can do that. If you want to be active, you can go and do the whole 15 kilometres if you like. So, you know, it caters to everybody. So, and I think then the final aspect is, you know, in addition to the amenities, the residential zones, there's 5 unique zones, they'll all have a unique character in themselves. So I think those are probably the essential elements that make this project quite unique.
So yeah, cater to all types of lifestyles. I would say that this will be the ultimate destination residence. So now back to Mr. Ho. We've heard you say there are 15 kilometers cycling and jogging trail linking home. So nature clearly is the key and important part of this. So tell us a bit more about the master plan, like how you are making nature be the star in this project.
I think one interesting part of it is it's an attitudinal issue. Besides the fact that we have got 30% of the total land mass, the land area being devoted for natural purposes and so on, and everything else that Stuart and I have spoken of, I think one important point is most developers would say, I'm going to develop all these areas, and then I'll get a landscape company to come in and then prettify all the landscape around there. And the landscaping is actually quite secondary to a project. We've approached it somewhat differently. We've looked at the 1 square kilometer. We then have decided where the most beautiful areas are in terms of natural attractions, and those will be kept preserved. And then we decide on a master plan that would actually, I guess, optimize not just nature, but the natural terrain. Water management is another important point, for example. So we study that land and we decide what to do with the land, not with the primary objective of how much can we cram into the land in terms of housing, but what's the optimal design, and then we put in the housing. So when you start with that attitude, landscaping is not secondary. It's in fact quite primary. And for that attitudinal difference, then everything else flows.
Yeah, we can see that. So is it being very much built for a new, more eco-friendly or sustainable, environmentally conscious generation?
Yes, yeah. I mean, when you look at it, and we always try to have fun in what we do, meaning doing innovative things, there's only that many variations of a condo design. I mean, luxurious, super luxurious, entry level, whatever it is, right? There's only that much you can do. So if you want to do something innovative and you're not doing it for PR reasons, you're doing it because you yourself want to take every project as the opportunity to do something innovative, then the innovation that we can have is not just in the design of the condos, which we do try to be a little bit innovative in, but the innovation is in the entire approach to the project. We have been lucky to have a piece of land that's 1 square kilometer. It is not on the beach, but we have our own private beach club, but it has got absolutely other natural beauties. It's got a highland, it's got lagoons. How do we take this opportunity to not just do another income maximizing residential project? That's kind of easy to do. The more difficult thing is how can you do something innovative that is sustainable, not just from a carbon emissions point of view, but something that is socially sustainable. I'm well aware of all these branded residences around the world. Many of them are in relatively poor countries. And then you have the social dislocation of very rich foreigners living in an enclave, and the rest of the population are the poor natives, whether that be in Latin America or elsewhere. And we would like this to be an attempt to try to do something different. And if it works, I think it could be a model for others. So that's, I guess, my approach to the whole project.
So these are also available for the wider community to enjoy as well. And also, one more thing, we understand that there is a dedicated beach club and country club as well? Yeah.
Yes. Well, let me speak to both of those. The dedicated beach club, of course, is absolutely important because we will be having a few, tens of thousands of people staying in Lakelands. And they've come to expect from Laguna Phuket integrated services. Laguna Lakelands will be our biggest residential development, the biggest one in Phuket, et cetera, et cetera. And people expect that they're not just going to be left there They will be, in fact, given all kinds of services. There will be an urban core and center and so on. But the one point of difference is that there will be a beach club on our Laguna Phuket beach, which is only for the residents of Laguna Phuket. And that is one point. The other important point is not just for Laguna Lakelands, but for all of Phuket. There are 5 beautiful golf courses in Phuket. They're only enjoyed by golfers. But all the people who live in Phuket, unless they're golfers, there's nothing for the families to do. So the idea of a country club, not a super fancy one, but a very, I guess, very diversified one, where a family can go and the kids can take dance lessons, swimming lessons, music lessons. The ladies can take yoga lessons, this and that, and the men will not play golf because we have our own golf course. But essentially a one-stop shop for families who are living in our estates, as well as families who live in Phuket. They can join. That's, again, another service that we think we're bringing, not because it's going to be profitable, which it will invariably be, we hope, but because it does fill a very important gap in Phuket's community development. So those two are additional things we're doing that we think will be novel and that is integral to Laguna Lakelands.
I really love the idea that creating a place for us to, to go and enjoy life, slow down a bit, and and it's not just only for the residents, but for the wider community as well. So now back to Kun Stuart. Well, I suppose it might be a bit too early to say all the details, but can you please give us a taste of what kind of apartments, condominiums, or villas there will be? Like, are they all aimed at the top of the market, or
Are you taking bookings from anybody here? How
We've
much discount are you going to give?
Discount for anybody that's going to reserve before they leave today. So
open?
I think one of the things I think we pride ourselves on as a developer, and as I spoke earlier today about, I guess, the evolution of the property market in Phuket, sort of pre-GFC, where it was mainly dominated by sort of Europeans, big villas. Post-GFC, you saw the emergence of the middle class, the low-cost airlines in Asia, and then we saw almost the inverse, where we had a lot of Asian buyers. I think we've got a whole range of property offerings we can offer to the market. So from the affordable segment all the way through to the luxury segment. So in Lakelands itself, we replicate that. So we've got affordable 1 and 2 bedroom condominiums starting from about $200,000 US, going all the way up to the upscale and luxury 4 bedroom villas at about sort of 1.7 million US, and then stuff in between as well. So I think that's very important to sort of have that range, because I think that served us well, and it, particularly through the dynamics of cycles and markets change. I think it was also important because all markets are different. We have a range of buyers from all market segments, from all nationalities and all countries, and so even from a country perspective, people are looking for certain things. From an individual buyer's perspective, people are looking for a second home. They're looking for investment property. They're looking for somewhere to relocate and make it a permanent home where they can live and raise a family. People are looking for a retirement home. So, by having that broad range of options available, it caters for everybody. We're not just one-dimensional in that respect. We're multi-dimensional.
If I may add, I think that's not just from a practical point of view because we have so much land. It's also from a philosophical point of view. Many of you are probably not aware, but just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, our hotel management side launched a whole rebranding exercise, a global one, where we changed the name of our group, which was called Banyan Tree Group, is changed to Banyan Group, of which Banyan Tree is one of the hotel brands, but the group is now called Banyan Group. And that's because in the last few years, we've added on about 6 or 7 new brands, so that we now cover, from a hotel point of view, we cover, again, entry level, which is sort of mid-scale. We go to upscale. We go to what the industry calls upper upscale, luxury, and so on. And that's because we have always felt that, from a philosophical point of view, that although Banyan Tree is associated with luxury, we believe that luxury is something that should be made available to everyone that are not luxury level. And because of that, this is reflected in our philosophy about property development. We are equally proud of the buyer who has bought an entry-level Sky Park as somebody who's bought the most expensive, exclusive villa, because they all make up part of our community. And diversity within a community is also critical. So I only just wanted to add that we are the only developer in Phuket who offer ranges of products from entry to ultra luxury. Others are either specializing in one or the other. And this is, of course, a business decision, but it's also underpinned by a philosophical approach to what is the meaning of hospitality. And it is not only as if the more expensive a hotel room is or the more expensive a villa is, those are the people who deserve attention. Everyone who wants to enjoy a destination are equally important to us, whether tourist or buyer. And that's why we roll out everything from entry level to luxury level. And we are as proud of the most inexpensive property as the most expensive property.
So yeah, like cater to diverse budgets and yeah, with so many affordable options. And I really love that this place is where luxury is made available. So KP, well, the reason you are releasing this to the market is essentially because the demand is there. So Phuket is going through a new property boom. So why is that? I mean, how is it that Phuket becomes so popular right now?
Well, I think I mentioned that to you already earlier on, right? It's a confluence of the 5 factors I mentioned. It's the confluence of unexpected geopolitical events that we never expected, that a crisis far, far away from us in Europe with the Russian-Ukrainian situation has resulted in Russians, Ukrainians, both, finding that Phuket is in fact a great place to be. We never thought of that. It's happened. We're happy. We're happy that Chinese high net worth individuals find that Phuket is a worthwhile place to invest, and virtually everybody else. And I think that's just all come together and with a confluence of many factors. If Phuket didn't have the climate, if it didn't have the air accessibility, if it didn't have this, it didn't have that, it didn't have the foreigner friendliness, all these factors I mentioned, if all these were not pre-existing, then it wouldn't take off. But it has taken off, and we think the responsibility now for all of us in this business is to make sure it is a sustainable, steady growth rather than a massive peak and then it collapses.
Yeah, I see. And yeah, especially it's a privilege indeed for all of you to get to experience a glimpse of this stunning sanctuary and of course our beloved island Phuket as well. So now let's go back to Khun Stuart about the Phuket property market. Can you please tell us a bit more about that and what trends that are we seeing? Who's investing, and also what are they looking for?
Yeah, well, I think we've covered a number of factors as to what's happening in the market and what's attracting people. But I guess this global migration phenomenon is certainly driving investment in Phuket. And then a number of the factors, the easiness in which you can live in Phuket, whether it be the accessibility, the escape from the urban density, and Phuket being seen as a safe haven. As I was mentioning earlier this morning, I mean, in the big cities, not only have you had the lockdowns where, people, but also air pollution and just the quality of life, being able to spend time outdoors. The geopolitics, I think Phuket has definitely benefited from that. And I think the sort of this east-west unipolar world, as KP mentioned, Thailand is a welcoming country. An interesting fact is Thailand's never been colonised. So that says something about the Thai people as well, the fact that they can adapt and the fact that they're very hospitable. The cost of living is another important one. So yes, you can spend big here in Phuket if you go and stay in Banyan Tree and during peak season, but you can also live a very good lifestyle at a very affordable cost. I mentioned earlier, if you want to buy a Toyota SUV here, it's about 40,000 US. You buy the same in Singapore, you would be spending probably $140,000 US. The education, you can send your kids to an international school here for, on average, of probably about 20,000 US. Again, in larger urban populations, urban centres, much more expensive. One important fact is the remote working as well, which KP touched on. you've got really good high-speed internet access here for an affordable cost. I mean, I've got 1,000 megabytes per second at my home for $30 US a month. My condo in Australia, I spend 100 US dollars per month, and it's not even half the speed. So that also facilitates, that remote working aspect. And of course, lifestyle and well-being. I think post-COVID, many more people are more aware of their health and their well-being. And so again, you can enjoy a great lifestyle here in Phuket. It's a great place to raise children. And as I was saying to some of you, I guess over lunch and dinner yesterday, I raised my children here, and they actually experienced a real childhood. In a lot of the big urban centres where all the rat races, I'd probably call it, the kids are driven, and they don't have time to enjoy life, or you don't want to let your kids go outdoors and be by themselves and explore and so forth. Whereas here, I've lived in Laguna for 20 over years. When I raised my kids here, I felt very comfortable with my kids going outside, no sort of concerns about their safety or anything, and they actually experienced a real childhood. So I think that's also another important aspect. And then I guess coming back to the well-being thing, the well-being and the wellness industry is a booming industry now, and I think I mentioned it was about, it's over $4 trillion globally. Asia Pacific has 1/3 of the share of that market, and we see that industry really taking off, and we're basically supporting that. I mean, in Banyan Tree Vaya, where you've got curated programs for mindfulness and non-medical wellness, and then we've got Laguna Wellness by BDMS, which is medical wellness. And so I think those aspects are also really important. In terms of the key markets, presently, obviously, Russia is one of the key markets. We saw the Russian tourism increase last year in 2023 by 25%. And again, this comes down to the accessibility. So a lot of that tourism also drives the property demand, because people come here, and once they repeat, and they come on a regular basis, and they decide to jump in and invest in a property. Now, an interesting stat is the Chinese business, which is also a significant part of our business, and Russia and China alone are the two key markets that collectively probably would account for maybe 50%. But China last year, the visitation numbers were only a quarter of what they were pre-COVID. Yet our absolute value of sales to the Chinese market exceeded what we did pre-COVID. And as I mentioned, with the recent announcement between the Thai and Chinese governments of the visa exemptions allowing visa-free travel, I think the Chinese market will really come back strongly this year. With that announcement, already they're saying that the amount of Chinese that are searching Thailand, that are searching Phuket, is really booming. And from when that comes into effect, I think it's from the 1st of March, I think we'll see our Chinese business come up even more. And then, of course, we've got other markets such as Western Europe, the UK, even Thailand, Singapore and Hong Kong, which are also important. But I guess we've also got the emerging markets as well. So, that are coming from very much a zero base, but again, wanting to come and invest in Phuket for all the reasons we've discussed. I mean, I think there's huge potential in the future with the Indian market. Again, you've got this big population base, a big emerging middle class. The proximity, the cost of property in their own home country, in their big cities, is out of reach for many people, and even the Middle East. And so I think there's lots of different factors that come into play, but all of those factors support Phuket booming as a destination to buy and invest in a property.
So yeah, no doubt why international business is coming up, and yes, also I think even because Phuket has a lot to offer, especially here in Laguna Phuket. I think 1 or 2 days it's not enough for all of you. Maybe you gotta come back here again, or maybe considering living here, just like Kun Stuart. Right. So yeah, let's talk a bit more about Laguna Phuket and itself and its infrastructure. Stuart, well, you live here and in Laguna Phuket, so what it's like to live here, and why do you think this area in Phuket on the Central West Coast is the best place to live?
Well, I think whilst KP was a visionary that put Phuket on the map with Laguna Phuket, as he mentioned earlier, it took him a long time to actually realise and move here, enjoy the lifestyle of Phuket. When I first joined the group, I think when I was going through the interview process, they asked me, my background was finance, do you want to work in Singapore, in Bangkok or Phuket? And I thought they all thought I was going to say Bangkok or Singapore. And I said, no, I'll take the hardship posting in Phuket. And 20 years ago, there was a lot of open spaces, a lot of empty fields and not as much development as today. But I guess over that period of time, I've raised a family here. I'm now an empty nester where my children have grown up. But what I really find great living here is it's the accessibility to everything. So it's close to the airport. I can be at the airport if I've got to go to Bangkok or Singapore for work, 20 minutes to get to the airport. I've got a whole range of amenities which I can enjoy here. I don't have to get in the car and drive for half an hour or an hour to get into, I've got a whole range of amenities on my doorstep. I think the other thing is the diversity of people we have here in Laguna Phuket. So it's good to see that diversity and see different cultures and make friends from many different cultures. And also, it's a very safe place and it feels secure to live in. So I have no qualms about walking around, not even locking up my house because it just feels extremely safe. And even if you go just outside of Laguna Phuket to Boat Avenue and so forth, you've got all those amenities literally on the doorstep. And all the open spaces, just enjoying a walk around Laguna Central Park or and so forth, and a lot of those amenities that Lakelands will have. So it's a controlled environment in that respect. So Laguna takes care of all the common areas, and I think that's also important because then you have a controlled aspect to it and it's consistent. And of course, finally, is the investment angle. So I remember when I first invested in a property here, number one was diversification, so not, to have a diversification of assets, but also I looked at it from the point of view of, even from a currency perspective, if you got in early, and then there was a currency gain angle as well, and then as Phuket sort of evolved and boomed over time, we've seen strong capital appreciation of the properties here, as I mentioned earlier, probably on average about 10% per annum over a 15-year period. And of course, you've got the investment potential if you don't want to live here full time, but you want to rent out your property. You can make a good return if you rent it out just over the high season months to defray the costs of owning a property if you have it as a second home.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that for sure. But first of all, thank you once again to Mr. Ho for, putting Phuket on the map. Because yes, as we can see, the location and everything is unrivaled indeed, I would say. So yeah, let's talk more about the international market. You've built quite a remarkable, unique ecosystem here that makes it very easy for foreign owners and takes away all the headache of property management from them. So how does all that work? Let's go back to Khun Suk once again for the foreign owners. Yeah.
Well, I think our relationship doesn't end when we make a sale to somebody. It's only the beginning. So the relationship is an ongoing relationship. And so post the sale, we pride ourselves on having taken care of owners beyond the handover, the completion of their property. So we offer an extensive range of after-sale services in terms of the individual property management. Our team is multilingual, so it caters to all major language groups. So we've got Chinese, Russian-speaking, Thai-speaking, English-speaking. So I think that's also a very unique aspect which many others don't have. I think, again, when we're coming back to, we not only maintain the common areas, but offer the individual property management services that you may require. Even if you're a full-time resident, you can still get your pool cleaning, your gardening, housekeeping and so forth done by us. And it's a one-stop shop. So you go to one point of contact and they will arrange the rest. You don't have to go and speak to many, many people to arrange and coordinate all these different types of services. So I think that's a very unique aspect that we can bring to the table that most other developers cannot.
Yeah, I really admire that making sales means the very beginning, right, of everything. So yeah, no doubt why, so international market is booming here. So as I understand that owners can get your help with visas, yeah?
Yes, so I mentioned earlier, so Thailand Elite, which is boomed in its membership over the last 2 years. I think it's increased more than 100%. So with properties above a certain value, we offer the Thailand Elite visa, which allows you to stay here on an extended basis, I think up to 20 years, with multiple re-entry permits and so forth. But even if the property doesn't come with a Thailand Elite membership, we can still assist you with other types of visas, such as Thailand recently introduced in 2022 some long-term residential visas, which are up to 10 years, catering to different categories. And even at the most basic level, a retirement visa or an education visa, which is not very much to do in terms of, and the fees are very minimal. So we've got a broad range of those offerings to allow people to stay here on an extended basis.
Yeah, so with a lot of help from here, so it's make it easier for foreign owners to come and live here in Phuket. So let's go back to Kun KP. As you mentioned earlier, that this is the 30th anniversary of Banyan Tree brand, as you rebranded as Banyan Group. So can you tell us a bit about Banyan Tree brand and its growth? As we understand it, that owners at Laguna Lakelands also have the privilege, special privilege there.
Could I digress a little bit and have maybe Stuart can talk about Sanctuary Club and also on, right? I mean, the Sanctuary Club idea is what you wanted me to speak about, which is how if you're an owner of any property, you have unique advantages of being able to go to other properties that are within our whole group. But if I could digress, I couldn't help when I was sitting here looking at all of you poor souls, that I used to be a journalist. And I used to have to go on these media trips where I have to sit through all this PR talk by your host, telling you every goddamn good thing that we're doing, which is what Stuart and I are trying to do to you, and which you have to sort of sit through, okay? So believe me, I've been there, I know what you have to go through. So with this kind of cynicism on my part, I was actually thinking, oh, it's great, I'll sit here and do my emails while these two jokers on stage go and talk about all the great things that we have. And then I would have to probably separately think of what's the real story. Not the PR story from the developers telling us all these things. What's the real story? And then I thought to myself, why we actually organized this trip for all of you. It's really not for you to go back and write all the great things about our properties so that we can sell more. Journalists like yourself don't really help us sell properties. Our sales agents sell, and we're selling very well. So I was thinking to myself, why did we ask you to come, and what is it that we hope you will do? And to me, the reason why we asked you to come is because I think after 30 years and after everything that's been happening, the way I put it nicely was Phuket has come of age, but the real situation, if I were a journalist like you, and the real story here today is Phuket is at a crossroads. And there have been reports already about over-tourism in the world. Phuket has been named as one of them. And I think the real story here is how a place like Phuket, in the short span of 30 years, compared to Bali, Mallorca, and so on, has within the last few years post-COVID exploded beyond imagination. What does it mean? I think there are a lot of challenges ahead. And I think the real story here is how Phuket is at a crossroads, and the people who consider Phuket their home or their primary business like us have a dilemma. And particularly for Laguna, our dilemma is how can we be at this crossroads and be a catalyst for innovation and positive change so that Phuket doesn't become yet another overdeveloped destination in the world. It is yet not overdeveloped. It is at the cusp of that threat of overdevelopment, poor infrastructure, and so on. And that's why the project we have at Laguna Lakelands is truly our attempt and our responsibility as the biggest investor and developer in Phuket to see whether we have the ability to try to influence the outcomes of this dilemma so that Phuket can perhaps, in the years to come, be a very positive example of development. I think that's, to me, the real story, and that's the reason why we asked you to come. Whether the help you would give to all of us is not in writing just pretty PR stuff, but by basically helping both the world, investors, the government in Phuket, the government in Thailand as a whole, and the whole community, all the developers who are doing resort developments around the world. The danger of over-tourism is real. How can responsible developers do things to influence the outcome so that it's positive for everyone? We are a work in progress. We are an experiment. But that's where I think, if I were you, that's where the story is. Phuket can go both ways. And we are trying to influence it to go a better way. Whether it will work or not, we don't know. But therein is the excitement, the challenge, and confronting that challenge and meeting that challenge is, for me, the exciting part of where we are today.
Totally agree. And yeah, I think that's...
Hospitality brands who offer a loyalty program or a frequent guest program for their frequent guests. We're a little bit different. I guess we always try and be different. So our program is for our property owners, and it's called the Sanctuary Club. So this opens up the network of Banyan groups offerings throughout the world, as I touched on earlier. So you get discounts throughout the network of the services and throughout the world, whether it be on hotels, F&B, spa, gallery, etc. You get privileges, typical resort-type privileges, early check-in, late check-out, priority waitlist on reservations. But beyond that, and extending beyond that, we have things like when we open new resorts, we have what we call an experiential guest program, where we invite our owners, prior to the official opening, to go and stay and experience that resort. So I think that's another unique aspect. Whenever we release new projects to the market, we go to our owners first before we release to the public. So we give them the sort of the first option to secure the, maybe the best property, and they get the first choice. And in addition, any owner that buys a subsequent property, we give them an owner's discount because we don't have a marketing cost then associated with that sale. And an interesting statistic I think I touched on earlier as well is approximately 10% or 1 in 10 of all of our owners buy more than one property. And they're not buying for speculative reasons per se, because they tend to hold them. They don't just buy and flip. So I think those are, I guess, a lot of the unrivaled owner benefits. And I guess I just thought of the last one, which was something that sets us apart from other developers is, particularly for foreign buyers, you cannot get onshore financing here in Thailand. So we offer deferred payment up to 5 years. So that really helps any buyer manage their cash flow when they're purchasing their property, because you can pay progressively 50% of the purchase price over the course of construction and the rest over a period of up to 5 years. Most other developments, you have to put in 50% or 30% just by the time they start construction. So that's, I guess, another unique point that we have, which we can bring to the market that others cannot.
Thank you very much. I think we've learned quite a lot. And yes, so many key takeaways from Laguna Lakeland, Laguna Phuket, and also, especially what Mr. Host just mentioned, that this is Banyan Group's attempt to, because we are at the crossroads, and yes, be my guest, everybody, we can help shaping the future, spreading your words, because we are committed to being responsible and also for a sustainable living as well. So now, apart from, I would say, lots of key takes away, now I would like to open up the floor for questions from all of you. Please, if you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand and our staff will go to you. The microphone, please. Any questions regarding, the Laguna Lakeland? Laguna, yes, please. Okay. All right, you're with next. Please.
Hello, I'm Pearl from Hong Kong 01. And can you guys talk more about the land supply situation in Phuket now, since this is the huge factor that directly affecting the property price? So yeah, can you talk more about this? Yeah.
The land supply situation. Well, I mean, maybe you could add more if you wanted to, but as you would know, land supply is not just an absolute issue of how much land is undeveloped. When you have an island and you have a coastline, a lot of the land supply issue is about how much land along a coastline is available. Phuket is almost completely depleted in that respect. There's very little land left that's on the beach. Even hotels are finding it very difficult to be located directly on the beach. So therefore, the answer is land supply that is within a few hundred meters of a beach is severely restricted, very, very little of it left, and that's made property prices shoot up like crazy. But land supply inwards is still quite a lot because Phuket is not yet that developed. And I think what will happen that is good for everyone is that across from Phuket in Phang Na, there is still a lot of beachfront land left that is still quite cheap compared to Phuket. And the view that we take is not a sort of dog in the manger attitude that we must keep everything happening in Phuket and everything going across the causeway is negative. I think we take the view that along the whole Andaman coast of Thailand, there are still hundreds of kilometers of untouched beachfront land. And what will happen then is developers will start moving across there. And that is only positive for Phuket as a whole, because then you have greater Phuket developing. So land supply, beach land supply in Phuket, severely restricted. Non-beach supply in Phuket, more available. And beach supply outside of Phuket, but within a very near driving distance, is quite available. And that is good for Phuket, because then the whole Andaman area of Greater Phuket can further develop over the next 20, 30 years.
And I might just add on, I think those are all really valid points, but something I also find quite unique and interesting about Phuket is the city planning and the environmental regulations. So there are certain zones, so the closer you are to the coastline, there are restrictions on the size of building that you can build and the height of the building. And the maximum height you can build in Phuket when you get to the zones that are further away is only 23 metres, so it's effectively low rise. So I think also that's an important aspect in terms of controlling the density and controlling the outlook of Phuket, because you're not going to end up with massive high-rise buildings across the coastline.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I hope that's answered. Yes, please, our staff.
Hi, thank you for taking the questions. I'm from the Nikkei. So let me ask two questions about, the first one is about the contribution of the mega project in Phuket to your financial kind of results. For example, I understand that this project is really important in terms of the society or making the community, more, I say, innovative, and also, this is really important in terms of, or it's really important ethically, but of course, the Banyan Tree Holdings is a, listed company. So what do you think about the contribution of this project to the financial result?
If I may answer that, first of all, it is actually very important for us, even financially, over a long-term period. But it's not as if this project is that critical for us at all over even a medium-term period of 5 years or so. What I did not mention to you is that we have a philosophy of developing across a broad spectrum of areas. Meaning, while we have launched Laguna Lakelands, and it will be a long-term project because of its gross development value and so on and so forth, we are at the same time launching projects within Laguna Phuket. Next to this golf course, next to the beach. We still have land near the beach. So we are launching a number of projects all at the same time. So Laguna Lakelands is important for us because it's taking 1 square kilometer of land that is not on the beach and making a whole community out of that. And therefore, to me, the innovative part of it, what you call the ethical part, or I call the innovative and sustainable part, in fact, is the most important part, because while it will contribute to our earnings, it's not as if by rolling out Laguna Lakelands, it's going to overwhelm the majority of our property development profits. It's not. We are launching every year new projects within Laguna Phuket itself also. So it will have only a moderate impact over the short term. Over the long term, of course, we see it as a sustainable project, not just for ethical purposes, but financially sustainable. When it takes off, and we already have done pre-sales and have got very good pre-sales, this will then be a source of development income for the next 10 years, ongoing. But it's not as if all our eggs are placed in that basket.
Thank you. So the another question is about more, how can you evaluate the sustainable level of this mega project? Because there are many the projects introducing some specific kind of certification to like a lease certificate or that kind of thing. So how can you evaluate this project in terms of kind of sustainability?
That's a very interesting question. Most people think about sustainability in terms of carbon emissions and LEED certification. That's actually a very easy thing for us because all our hotels are LEED certified. So in terms of buildings, we know what to do. And frankly, there's not that much you can do because how much contribution in terms of solar power can you have when you have a main power grid? You can augment it in terms of solar power, in terms of energy costs. You can do all kinds of other things which we're doing anyway with all our hotels. We'll be doing it here. But the main issue of sustainability for a project like this, to me, is not the greenness of it in terms of building technologies and so on and so forth. The real question of its sustainability is from a social point of view. And that's why I mentioned earlier, most projects of this kind are property development projects within a gated community. And there's not been an attempt within a project of this size to integrate with the larger community. So for this, there actually are no metrics or criteria for measurement, simply because nobody has ever done it before. And as we try to do it, maybe we will establish new criteria of sustainability in terms of integrating out a larger community with a private residential complex. And that would be something exciting to do, but we would be the forerunners and the pioneers of this, as we have done for so many other things in our 30-year career.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so any more questions? We still have, okay, we still have time here. Please.
I'm Violet Shen, columnist from Forbes China. I have a question about like the social responsibility. We were informed this morning, like Lakelands, this project, it takes at least 10 years to finish the whole construction. So we talk a lot on the construction aspect. What's your perspective on the social responsibility aspect? What it would be in 10 years? That would be like 2034.
Yeah, well, I think it will evolve over time. So we've got the concept for the master plan. So a lot of the amenities we'll look to put in up front. So again, that will deliver those amenities by the time the first residential units are delivered, to make it accessible to the broader community. And so I think that's an important aspect in terms of opening up to the broader community as well. I think also, so I think most other developers come in and they've got they have to buy land, they have to churn through it very quickly in order to sustain a good rate of return, and then do it, and then they go. But I think, like we were saying, we're in for the long haul. We will develop over time, we'll unlock that land over time, and we'll have a relationship with our community and our owners over time. So I think it's a marathon and it's not a sprint.
Let me just give an example, sort of visualizing what you said. Well, first of all, it might take much shorter than 10 years, or it could take longer than 10 years, because it really depends on market demand. And right now, it looks like it may be much shorter than 10 years based on some of the demand we're getting already. But you asked a good question. What will it look like 10 years from now? And I can sort of give you a few imagery of what I would hope it would look like, not in terms of the physical architecture, but I think, as we discussed a little bit at lunch, I would hope that obviously, and this is easy to say because it's obvious, for the people who stay in Lakelands, there'll be a huge range of facilities. When you have a community of that size, there'll be a huge range. But what I would like to see is a project where the people who feel that they own it are actually the owners. But I would love to see other people who are either Phuket residents, long-term residents, families who have grown up here, and recent residents who are not in our projects but living elsewhere. They will wake up one day and say, let's go and have a walk at Laguna Lakelands. Now, you wouldn't say that if Laguna Lakelands was a gated community. I would love to see a family say, let's go for a run. A 15-kilometer jogging track is unheard of in Phuket. It's almost like Central Park. So people would say, let's go for a jog. People would say, let's go to the Lotus Gardens or the Botanic Gardens or the Bamboo Gardens. We intend to have different botanic gardens within Laguna Lakelands, which will be centerpieces for specific residential projects, but also accessible to the public. So like me living in Singapore, or I would say, take my family to the famous Botanic Gardens in Singapore, which is open to the public. There is nothing equivalent here. So I would love to see a community develop so that people would say, let's go and enjoy these public facilities. I also explained that we're going to have a rainforest reserve on the hilltops. And that would be a place where young people would be encouraged. We would work with Boy Scouts and schools and so on to have camping facilities there. They could go and enjoy. Because frankly, right now, even though Phuket has so many hills, if you are a young Thai teenager in a Thai school, there's not many places you can go to go camping. And then another level, let's say you are a Russian family not staying with us, or you're a Thai family staying somewhere else, and you have a family of young kids ranging from 5 to 15, and you kind of think, where are we going to go on a Saturday? Well, you would come to the Laguna Phuket Country Club, because that country club is not going to be priced at a point where it's based on exclusivity. It's going to be priced so that it's accessible. You would go there because then your younger kid can go, your younger girl can go for dance lessons, the older kid can go for music lessons, the wife can go for yoga lessons, the guy can do something else. They can play a variety of sports, they will have swimming lessons, and it would then be truly a community for middle-class families across Phuket, Thai or foreigner, to have a place for the families to go, which currently they don't have. If they want to play golf, they can go, but there is no country club. So those imageries I'm giving you as just a few examples is a visualization of what I think we want to be in 10 years' time. We want to be a very profitable residential development. Of course, our shareholders would want it. But more than that, we want it to be a thriving community which everyone in Phuket would say, that's a great place, and I want to go there.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, with all these key takeaways, I would say, I can't help but feel in a spark of, excitement for the future of Laguna Lakeland and, of course, the future of Phuket. Thank you very much, Mr. Ho, and also Mr. Redding as well. So now there is no more question coming up. So big round of applause, and please for Mr. KP Ho and Mr. Stuart Redding, please remain on the stage as we are moving on to a photo session on the stage because we truly appreciate your presence here. So please, everyone, you are invited to come in front of the stage to join a big group photo with, of course, our executives. On the stage, we have Mr. KP Ho here, and we also have Mr. Stuart Redding. Please welcome on the stage as well, Mr. Roy Lau, Head of Marketing, Group Property Development, Banyan Group, and also Ms. Cherry Jia, Senior Assistant Vice President, Sales Channels Development of Banyan Group, on the stage as well. Please welcome. Well, we are now moving on to a photo session. I would say a really big one. So all of you, please, you're all invited. Please make your way to in front of the stage.